Hi, it's Mike over at Cross Country Mortgage, and it's time for your Monday morning mortgage update for the week of December the 4th, first week in December. I always try to give you tools, tips, tactics, things that you can use to go out and talk to your buyers and sellers, have more intelligent conversations about what's happening in the market this week, and talk about what happened last week and what's going to happen in the week coming. So first, how was your weekend? I had a great weekend, decorated for Christmas, and also watched my Niners take it to the Eagles. What a great game. Really sets us up for a great end of season, and I hope your team did well as well. So what happened last week? Great week for rates. We saw interest rates improve, almost 100 basis point improvement in the rates, which means if I quoted somebody an interest rate on Monday and I gave them one discount point cost for that rate, that same rate on Friday had no discount point. And it doesn't mean that the interest rate improved 1%. It just means the cost of that rate got lower. So rates improved about 1/4 to 3/8% last week, and we'll take it. So let's look at the market and look at really what this means. We've seen a really nice run on bonds. We know that mortgage rates are determined by the trading of mortgage-backed securities in the bond market, and the low or the highest the rates we've seen in a long time were October of this year, end of October. And since then, the market has just been improving. Money's been flowing into this bond market. Why? Because inflation is starting to abate, start to get under control. We saw a nice run last week, and we really haven't seen this pricing since August 10th of this year. So we'll take it. The trend is showing that rates are getting better, and that's good for everybody. It means there's definitely improvement in affordability. So why did this happen? As I said, inflation started to get under control. The PCE report showed inflation coming down last week. The second thing is the beige books came out. So I talked about this last week. Each section of the economy is of our U.S. economy is broken into districts, and they report every so often what their districts look like. And every district in the U.S. shows economic contraction, weaker economy. And when the economy shows signs of weakness, that means that money starts to flow into the bond market and mortgage rates get better. And a weaker economy is good for mortgage rates, not great for the economy, but definitely good for rates. And then the last thing is what the market and economists and bond traders think the Fed's going to do with the Fed fund rate moving forward. And so we know that the Federal Reserve has been raising the Fed fund rate since March of last year. And they have said since March of last year and all of this year that they're going to raise this rate and keep raising it until they think it's high enough. And then they're going to leave that rate alone through 2024 and really let it bake our economy into lower inflation, a recession, if you will. And up to 2 months ago, that was very, very strict in what they were saying. And then things started to change because we started to see inflation get under control and actually show signs that it was abating and coming down. I talked about this. And now we start to see start to see some projections from economists and bond traders on when the Fed's going to cut rates. So I thought this was a pretty interesting chart. The meeting next week, the last meeting of this year, they're not going to cut rates. January, very, very low odds that they'll cut rates. But now we start to see a greater than a 50% chance that the Fed's going to cut rates in March, in May, in June, in July, September, November, December. It doesn't mean every single meeting they're going to cut rates. They could not cut rates in January or March and then do a 50 basis point rate cut in May. It just shows you a very big turnaround in what the Fed was saying at the beginning of this year and what the economists are projecting and what the Fed is implying that they're going to do. There's some strong indications we're going to see these rates come down into the middle of this year. And that's great for mortgage rates. It's great for our economy because it means inflation is starting to get under control and things are going to cost less. So what are we looking at that's going to impact the market this week? Really two things: jobs. It's a big jobs week, and then some service numbers. So 2 jobs reports comes out, ADP and BLS, and they give us some indication on where jobs are. And we expect these numbers to show signs of weakness. If we see fewer jobs added, that's going to be a sign of a weaker economy, and that'll be good for mortgage rates. Services, so there's a report that comes out every month called ISM Manufacturing and ISM Services. ISM Manufacturing last week, which is what businesses are making, producing, if you will. That was weak. And the other part of that report that comes out this week is expected to show signs of weakness. Again, a weaker economy means money flows into the bond market and mortgage rates get better. So the final thing I want to talk to you about is loan limits. You may have seen this. The loan limits for 2024 are going up. And they've been going up every single year for quite some time. The FHFA and the FHA increases their loan limits, and conventional loan limits starting January 1st will go from $726,200 to $766,550. That means anything above $766,550 will now be considered a jumbo loan. Anything at that mark or less is conventional. So this means that borrowers can buy a house and have a loan amount of $766,500 and still put 3% down on a first-time home buyer home. When you get into jumbo, it's much larger down payment requirements, reserve requirements, things like that. So this is good for affordability. Obviously, we need those rates to come down to make homes more affordable, but it just means that homes are going to qualify for those conventional loan limits at higher loan amounts. FHA is raising their loan limits in our area to $498,000, $257,000. Now, keep in mind on conventional and FHA, loan limits are set per county, and all of Northern California apply to these. Once you get into the Bay Area and Sacramento, they have larger loan limits, but this applies to our Northern California area. And then VA has no county limits, so there is no loan limit for that area. So what are we looking at this week? We're looking at floating right now. We actually think there's a good indication we could see rates improve by the end of the week. So we're floating, starting the week, watching it very closely. If we see any changes, we'll move to a locking position. Forward this to somebody that you know that can help. If you have any questions on the market, don't hesitate to give me a call. Have a great, productive week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.